progetto CoMPaSS-NMD cerca di rispondere a una domanda fondamentale. Quali sono le basi genetiche, quindi le variazioni all'interno della molecola del DNA che ognuno di noi porta, che possono spiegare perché e come la malattia si sviluppa? Sostanzialmente questa è la grande domanda. Questo progetto ha delle caratteristiche uniche, direi, perché vogliamo sfruttare appunto differenti gruppi di dati, quindi useremo dati che vengono dallo studio del DNA di pazienti con malattie neuromuscolari, dati che provengono dallo studio di risonanza magnetica, dati che provengono dagli studi istologici, e tutto questo dovrebbe permettere di costituire una metodologia che permetta di analizzare questi dati in modo da trovare collegamenti che sono nascosti. L'intelligenza artificiale ha questo scopo, la mente umana ha una capacità limitata di acquisire i dati e l'intelligenza artificiale cerca di aiutare il clinico a capire i vari contenuti all'interno dei nostri dataset. Ho tantissimi dati, uso uno strumento che mi permette di capirci di più. Non delego la mia capacità di discernimento, ma di sicuro se qualche cosa verrà scoperto potrà essere utile perché lo potrò aggiungere al mio bagaglio da professionista. E ovviamente speriamo di aumentare la capacità di far diagnosi.
Good afternoon. Welcome everybody. This is the third webinar of the series Navigating NMDs, Your Compass to Care. So the title of this afternoon is Your Sensitive Data Secure and Handled with Care. This webinar will deal with data safety and the importance of assuring that these data are well managed and well conserved. So this is the most important aspect. And it is about CoMPaSS. And what is CoMPaSS? We have experts of different kinds. CoMPaSS is taking care of creating computational models for new patient stratification strategies of neuromuscular disorders. What is the goal of CoMPaSS? The goal is to create and improve the diagnostic capacity. NMDs, neuromuscular disorder, are challenging in this sense, and CoMPaSS is really trying to generate and to test a new model. So we want to have a system that can assist the doctor with new tools for a proper diagnosis, and also try to help patients in improve their ability. And this is one possible application, not of CoMPaSS, but in general of AI. And also AI is part of the medical world because it is possible to have diagnosis. We have experienced this part during the COVID pandemic, and then there are several other applications. But why CoMPaSS? The project, there was a call for health to improve this type of AI-based approach. And we prepare this based on our experience, because this is based on an experience of many years. We propose a project that can help to ameliorate our diagnostic capacity for neuromuscular disorder. CoMPaSS includes several groups with different expertise. We have clinical centers, they so-called third-level clinical centers. There is companies, IT companies, and experts of other aspects. And a key element is the participation of computational scientists who can support the development of new AI-based tools. What are the goal of CoMPaSS? We want to generate first a robust and reliable data set that are needed to generate the computational tools. And then we want to create a solution that integrate different level of data in order to classify properly patients. And we want to use data from the clinical part, the histological part, and the genomic part, which is a component of the diagnosis of neuromuscular disorder at this time. And the most, I think, advanced tools is the Atlas, a collection, a system, a platform that can collect information from the different aspects of the clinical evaluation. And why it is important? Because there are no such tools to collect data for neuromuscular diseases. And this is a real novelty. And if we are able to continue this experience, this can be a repository of information that will help the entire European community. Which are the basis of the rationale of our study? First, we started with the idea that hereditary neuromuscular disorder are genetic diseases. So by looking at the DNA, we can have information regarding the reason why the disease develops. At the moment, DNA analysis is the gold standard for the diagnosis, but 60% and probably more percent of patients do not have a proper diagnosis. But this is clearly an important point because we need an accurate diagnosis if we want to obtain good therapy, trials, and observational studies to understand how the disease can develop. And artificial intelligence is important because we have understood that we can collect several data, but we need to record them, but then we need also instrument to analyze this data that we can collect. And AI can help in define and discover patterns that our experience based on a single doctor experience is not sufficient. And so AI can improve our capacities. So CoMPaSS is divided in two parts, a retrospective observational study, and in this sense we reuse the data that were already collected through other studies that were previously funded by the European Union through other programs, and a prospective studies. At this point, in end of 2025, we are in the prospective studies, we are collecting the 500 patients, and we will, in 2026, we will be able to test the tools, the computational tools that have been already developed based on the retrospective data. So now we really can see CoMPaSS become true. We are closer to the first set of evaluation and see if we were right in hypothesizing the possibility of constructing these new tools. So, what can change with the results of CoMPaSS? We can provide new information about patients. So we want to give a proper diagnosis to a patient in a shorter time. Then there are specialists that can really use the tools developed by CoMPaSS, and then we will have the ability to collect patients that are so well characterized that can be helpful in design a proper clinical trial, so can be helpful for pharmaceutical companies. And also it is important for scientific community and also to give new information to the policymaker at local and at the European Union setting to create a better law, better policies to improve the life of neuromuscular patients. As we said, CoMPaSS involved several groups, and there are 5 centers that are third-level centers that are involved in neuromuscular disorder. Then there is the computational centers in Poland. This is SUT. Then an informatic company, which is Fincons. Then SIGAT is a company which is providing us sequencing for the genetic diagnosis. Then Tecnalia is in Spain, as in the expert, our legal and ethical expert. And Fincons is in Switzerland, and the Deep Blue is in charge of communication. Then we have an advisory board in order to monitor our advancement and get new hints to improve our study. So if you want to participate to CoMPaSS, this is the code, the QR code, and I want to thank everybody for participating to our meeting, to our webinar. Thanks, I hope it will be helpful. And now I am very happy to introduce Ainara Garzo, who is the senior researcher of Tecnalia. Ainara has played an important role in all our ethical and legal questions. So she will present her experience and her information. Please, Ainara, it is yours.
Hi everybody. Good afternoon. Thanks, Professor Tupler, for your introduction, and thank you all for joining us in this webinar. My colleague Michal and me will talk about the importance of the personal data processing. But before starting with my talk, I would like to to involve you in this webinar, launching a couple of questions. Please, I would appreciate if you can participate using the link that is in the chat or using the QR code that we are showing now in the screen. Please scan it to enter to the same link. I also want to remind that the questions that we are approaching right now was in the invitation that we already sent for this webinar. So probably some of you had already answered the questions, and I would like to thank to those that already participated. So we have to start, I would like to ask you about if you feel that sharing your health data is important for the research. You can find different answers, so please go on, click on the answer that better fits you. We can see that we are getting some of the answers. I will wait a few seconds just to give you some room. But we can see that well, most of the answers are positive. Good to know, because data is very important for us, for our research, and I will explain it later on. We can go to the next question, please. I would like to know if you have any concerns about sharing this personal data. You can select more than one answer. I was proposing some privacy loss, security problems, data breaches, hackers, others. I can see that there are some things that concerns to all of you, and well, I feel that it's usual, and I will talk also about the possible risks that can happen during the data sharing, and how we are approaching all of them. So hackers are the winners this time. Okay, thanks for sharing your thoughts, and I will go with my presentation. So, well, at the beginning, I will explain some relevant concerns of personal data protection in EU and why the health data processing is so important nowadays. Then I will focus on CoMPaSS-NMD project that Rosella already presented, but to explain how we are working with the health data in this case. And finally, my colleague Michael will present some technical developments we are implementing within the project with the aim of protecting the confidentiality of the data in the project. And then at the end of the session, we will have some room to attend your questions about this topic. So please use the chat to send them. As I said, I will present some relevant aspects of personal data protection and an overview of the EU regulation known as GDPR. As probably you all noticed, the healthcare is becoming more and more digital in the last years, and we can find several tools that can facilitate the diagnosis and treatments and also the follow-up of the diseases. For example, we can see here some pictures of tools and systems that can be used for health records or health imaging as MRI or X-ray, or to record biosignals such as heart rate. Nowadays, the artificial intelligence is a powerful tool for different things, as also Professor Tupper said. And in the case of health, it could be very helpful to analyze large amounts of data sets, which can be used to diagnose early detection diseases or selecting the most appropriate treatments. The data processing of a big amount of data was very helpful during the COVID pandemic. Uh, because when COVID affected the global population, it was unclear what treatment should be followed. Several medications were tested in hopes of solving the emergency problems, but often without knowing for sure what the outcome would be. At that time, it was crucial to share information among hospitals and countries quickly, with the aim of identifying the treatments that could work best. It was also important to share other types of patient information, since the same treatment could work differently depending on the patient's characteristics. Being able to process all this information automatically and very fast was essential and at that moment. So for us, it's very important to face that AI systems development need this health data. As much data is used to train and implement the AI algorithms, the results would be much more accurate. Due to the relevance and at the same time to the risk linked to the personal data processing, it was decided to regulate very strictly the use of them in Europe. We have probably all heard about the European Regulation on Personal Data Protection, known as GDPR. And the aim of this regulation on personal data is to allow the free movement of the data and the people within the high-level privacy guarantees. The free movement of the data allows citizens to gather services in any European country when travel or move, but always it wants to ensure the privacy and security of the data. Moreover, this legislation regulates the rights of the citizens to object the processing or to access, rectify the data, for example, which are the same independently on the country we live. Needs to be said that health data processing can generate some risks, as we already saw in the first questions. And also some data subjects can feel these fears from the processing. As example, identity theft can happen if hackers can access that personal data. In recent years, several cases of identity theft have appeared on TV, and in the cases that had been reported, the hacker impersonated another person, opened a bank account in their name and applied for some loans, and then the loans were later claimed to the person whose identity had been stolen, uh, which is a big issue because providing that their identity was stolen previously, it's quite difficult. Another type of attack that has been occurring in the recent years is the blocking of hospital data in exchange of a ransom. Hackers gain access to patient databases, locking the data and preventing healthcare professionals from properly treating patients because professionals cannot access these medical records or data. These attacks aim to obtain a very high financial reward in exchange for unlocking the systems. When personal data is stolen, also the risk can arise. For example, insurance companies can use the data to create profiles of people, of individuals, and justify denying them some coverage or charging higher prices, considering that providing the services would not be profitable. For this reason, companies dedicated to data processing are taking the security of personal data very seriously, and more technologies are being implemented to protect it. In the same way, the regulation requests a risk analysis of the proposed processing to make a plan for the development of the needed measures. Health records, biometric data used to access systems such as fingerprint or face recognition, or genetic data, which includes DNA extraction, are data considered especially protected by the European regulation. This means that special care must be taken when collecting and processing the data, as well as for the implementation of stricter measures for the protection of the data. On the other side, minimization principle of the regulation talks about the need of identifying the minimum data needed for the objective defined and not recording or processing data in excess. This principle avoids additional risks because with less data, the risk would be lower. Other technical recommended measure is the codification of the data with the aim of splitting the personal information from the rest of the data. With this measure, if the data is lost or stolen, the privacy can be protected because the personal identification must be saved in a different place that has not been accessed. Any other technical measure must be also evaluated to ensure the confidentiality and privacy case by case. And just remember, although a company or institution, including hospitals, universities, or research centers, need to process your data, you are always the owner of your own data, and you can exercise any right about this processing. Personal data processing is only allowed if it's needed under a contract or by legal obligation, vital interest, public task, or if the person expresses the conformity with it. This means that before collecting any personal information, an informed consent must be accepted. In the informed consent, we must receive information about the data will be collected and the purpose of the processing, the rights and how to exercise them, information about the controller and about how many times the data will remain under the processing must be also included in this document. Moreover, the processing will be limited to the description included on the information consent and the consent that the person already gave. So my recommendation is to keep a copy of the informed consent, because if in the future you want to exercise any of your rights of accessing, erase, or rectify wherever with the data, you will have the instruction on that document. As I explained, the European regulation about personal data processing is very relevant and obliges the institution to comply with certain rules. And this is what we did within CoMPaSS-NMD. I will explain some of the tasks we did in the project to ensure the privacy of the personal data needed to develop this project. As different institutions are working together in the project, the first step was to agree together on the type of the data and the samples needed for the diagnosis of neuromuscular diseases. Then the technological centers implemented the measures to prevent any unwanted access to the data. Protocols and informed consent were developed to collect data at the hospitals, and these documents were submitted and approved by the corresponding ethics committee in Modena, Pisa, and Munich. Everything before starting with the data collection. And finally, the informed consent was presented to the participants, and the samples and data are being collected from those who agree to participate in the research. As I already said, for us, it's very important that the prepared informed consents were approved by the ethics committee, who evaluate if the proposal of data processing is ethics and appropriate according to the defined objectives of the project. The ethics committee also evaluates the risk of personal data processing and the measures taken to avoid any problem on privacy. The information of the study, which was reviewed and approved by the ethics committee, is available on clinicaltrials.gov public database, and any of you can check it there. Within the project, we also applied confidentiality measures to the information we are collecting and processing, using codes to split the information from personal data, as I already explained, and ensuring that only the researchers who are working on the system development have access to it, with the aim of protecting the information as much as possible. I would like also to remark that the institutions working within CoMPaSS-NMD did a risk analysis and an impact assessment of the health data processing, with the aim of identifying the risks involved in the project and implement the needed measures. During this process, the consortium had the support of an advisor with an important background on personal data protection, who guided us in all the steps to confirm that the measures taken were appropriate. We also create a mailbox to attend any requests or doubts related to personal data protection of the data subjects. And of course, we are also applying the ethical and regulatory aspects for the AI system development, which includes the privacy and security of the data, the transparency on the use of the data on the use of the data, the accountability and liability of the system on its decisions, and non-discrimination on the use of it, taking into account any possible bias. Um, Now my colleague Michal will continue with some details about the technical implementation that we did for data security. But before Rosella Tupler will introduce you, Michal. So please, Rosella, the floor is yours.
Hi, thank you very much, Ainara. Thank you for your presentation. I think very useful just to show all the efforts and all the how difficult and how complicated is the law and the way. But I think it is very important that people are aware of this approach. And thank you very much. And now Michael Ovaki, who is a project manager in Technalia, he will present an important part regarding federated learning and all what we have learned through this approach. So, Michael, thank you very much. The floor is yours.
Yes, the GDPR and AI Act, it's also an important ethical responsibility. So this matters even more when we talk about health data, especially genetic information, which is among the most sensitive types of personal data. So to keep data safe, we train our staff, secure our hardware and software against attacks and misuse, and carefully assess the risks to reduce them as much as possible. But in CoMPaSS-NMD, we go one step further. We also explore technical solutions that protect privacy by design, built into the technologies we use to develop AI models for our research. In the next few minutes, I'll give you a short overview of these approaches without going into heavy details or showing any math. So let's do another quick Mentimeter poll. If you have a smartphone, please scan the QR code on the screen. Alternatively, you can also click on the link shown in the chat. So the first question is if hospitals could share patient data without revealing personal details, would you feel comfortable with that? And the answers are the three that you see. So yes, that sounds safe. No, I'd be still concerned or not sure. I'll wait a few seconds. There are still some changes. Okay, so that's interesting. I think the great majority feels very safe with our approach, but anyhow, 13% of you would still feel concerned even if personal data were hidden. So this shows that privacy is not only just about removing names or IDs, it's also about trust and understanding how data is used. So that's exactly why we work on technical solutions to make data sharing safer and more transparent. We have a second question. What do you think synthetic data is? And you have several possibilities to answer, so multiple choice. I'll wait a few seconds for you to finish. Okay, so thank you. Great. So the first two answers are correct. Synthetic data is indeed data that looks real but is artificially created, and often nowadays it's generated by AI. We use it because it can help gain insights into the data without exposing real patient information, which is a big step towards protecting privacy. In the CoMPaSS-NMD project, we work with several kinds of health data from patients with hereditary neuromuscular diseases. So we have, yes, please, the next question. So we have histopathological images from muscle biopsies, we have MRI scans of muscles, especially in the legs. We have genetic information, clinical records that are represented in tabular form. To apply artificial intelligence or AI, we first convert these images, measurements, and observations into numerical features. This means that for each patient, the important information, the characteristics identified by medical experts are represented as a long list of numbers. When we have these numerical representations for many patients, we can train AI models to learn patterns and make predictions. If you'd like to learn more about this process, we recommend our recent webinar by Professor Joanna Polanska. The recording is available on YouTube and linked on our project website. Patient stratification means grouping patients who share similar medical and genetic characteristics. For rare neuromuscular diseases, this is very important because it can help researchers confirm more accurate diagnosis, and in the future, we may guide which treatments would work best for each group. In CoMPaSS-NMD, we build and test different AI models to create these groups. The models learn from data. This process is called training. By adapting to the patterns in the data, the AI can make better groupings. On this slide, you see what we call centralized training. In many studies, all patient data is collected and copied to one powerful computer, the central server, where the AI model is trained. This method can be efficient because everything is in one place. But it also creates big risks. When data is transferred, it could be intercepted. And if that central server is hacked, all personal records could be exposed, including genetic and other very sensitive information. That's why we're securing the network, protecting the server, and managing who has access becomes a major challenge. Before I explain an alternative to this problem, think about your smartphone and its virtual keyboard. When you type a message in WhatsApp or any other app, the virtual keyboard on your phone learns how you type to improve predictions. But Apple, Google, and others don't collect all the text you write. Instead, your phone trains a small part of the model locally and sends only an update, not your actual words, to the server. The server combines updates from millions of phones and improves the global keyboard model that is then updated on all phones for all users. That's what federated learning is about, and that's federated learning in action. In our case, we don't have smartphones and keyboards. We have clinical partners with medical and genetic data from patients. Each hospital trains the AI model locally, and only model updates are shared with a central server. This way, we learn from all sites without moving sensitive patient data to a central computer. That server combines the updates from all hospitals and sends back an improved global model. This cycle of local training and combining updates is repeated until the model has learned enough from all sites. We call this collaborative training because everyone contributes without sharing sensitive data. Here we compare the two approaches. So centralized learning is usually faster and simpler because everything happens on one powerful computer, but it puts all sensitive data in one place which increases the risk of exposure. Federated learning, on the other hand, keeps data local and protects privacy. The trade-off is that it requires more coordination, takes longer to train sometimes, and sometimes the precision and accuracy can be slightly lower. In CoMPaSS-NMD, we test both methods to understand these trade-offs, speed, precision, and security, so we can choose the best approach for patient privacy and research quality. Although attacks on federated learning are very unlikely and require advanced skills, they are theoretically possible. To make this even harder, we use a technique called differential privacy. What does that mean? Imagine you want to make it difficult to identify a person from their data. One way is to add a tiny random change to some numbers, like shifting a birthday a few days, or adding 3 centimeters to someone's height and subtracting 2 centimeters from another. These small changes, called noise, make re-identification much harder, while the overall patterns remain useful for learning. Think of it like static noise on an old radio. You still hear the music, but not perfectly clear. The noise must be small enough so the model can still learn, but strong enough to protect privacy. However, in our project, we don't add noise to the patient data itself. Instead, we combine federated learning with differential privacy by adding a little noise to the model updates sent to the server. This creates an extra layer of protection without moving sensitive data. Another technique we use to strengthen privacy in federated learning is called homomorphic encryption. Here's the basic idea. Before sending model updates to the central server, each hospital encrypts them. The interesting part is that the server the server never decrypts this information. Thanks to a special property called homomorphism, the server can still perform the necessary calculations and update the global model without ever seeing the data in plain form. Think of it like doing math on locked boxes. You never open them, but you can still add what's inside. This means even if someone accessed the server, they would only see encrypted numbers, not anything that could reveal patient details. This is an extra layer of protection on top of federated learning. Synthetic data, as you learned from the poll that we made, means creating artificial data that looks and behaves like real data and has similar characteristics to the original. But it doesn't belong to any actual person. Think of it like a photorealistic painting. It looks like a real photo, but it's not a real person, or like composing a song in the style of a famous band. It feels authentic, but it's not any of their original tracks. This way, researchers can train AI models without exposing anyone's identity. Still, it's a promising technique in other areas of healthcare and but to be honest, in our tests, this synthetic data approach did not work well for genetic data. So our CoMPaSS-NMD project brings together clinical partners from the UK, from Germany, Italy, France, and Finland, along with AI experts from Poland, Switzerland, and Spain. Together, we design, develop, and test models for patient stratification using medical and genetic data. Sharing insights without sharing raw data builds trust and enables collaboration. Privacy preserving AI ensures progress without compromising ethics. The key takeaway is this: privacy and scientific progress can go hand in hand. Regulations like GDPR and the AI Act set the framework, and technology such as federated learning, encryption, and synthetic data makes it possible. Protecting patient data is not just about compliance, it's the foundation of ethical AI in healthcare. We thank you very much, and perhaps you have any questions.
Thank you very much, Michael, for the nice and clear presentation. And we are open for questions. There is a question. How can I be sure my personal health data won't be measured?
Okay, I will try to answer the question. Thanks for giving us some feedback. I would like to say that we in the project are following a strict EU regulation like the GDPR that I already mentioned. And every step that we are giving regarding the personal data processing is reviewed by the ethics committee and our advisor on ethics and legal aspect. And we are keeping the privacy of the data with technical measures such as coding the data, store it securely because we have servers in a safe place and having some tracks about any access and processing that we are doing, And as I said, only the researchers that need this data for the development are accessing it. And we also use this kind of techniques that Michael already presented, like federated learning and encryption.
Oh, thank you. So there is another question. How do you ensure consistent GDPR compliance across multiple EU countries, given the national variation in each country regarding this data?
Yeah, for the beginning of the project, we did a research on the national regulation also that apply in the project, because as Professor Tupler and Michael said, we are working in different countries, and although we have this GDPR that is applying to the whole EU, we can also see that there are some small differences between countries, and we are analyzing everything to be sure that we comply with every regulation that apply to the project. So we did this research and just to be sure about that.
There is another question. What does differentially privacy mean in practice? Does it change the data? I think this is for me.
Yes, that's for me, definitely. So it does not change the data that we share with the server, and we don't change the data of the people itself. This is an extra layer that we put on top of the encryption and data obfuscation. So everyone can be very sure that the data themselves will not be changed.
And then I think this could be the last. How soon will patients see benefit from this research? This is the most challenging question.
Yeah.
It
And
is.
who dares to reply to that?
Maybe I can reply. We will work very hard in order to, because I think we are in a good position. After we have, I think that after we finish the recruitment of the 500 patients of the perspective data, we will deal with the elaboration of the real data and the testing of the software, of the AI tools, and hopefully we will be able to present the data and convince the clinicians, because then we have the goal is to change the way clinician can approach patients, and then of course this will go to the patient. This is my impression. I don't know if you have any other opinion.
Yes, I agree fully on that.
Yeah,
What you just said. Yes, thank you.
completely.
We hope. Okay, I think if there are no other questions, we can thanks everybody, and we can announce the next step of this series.
Okay, thanks you all for attending this webinar, and we hope to see you in the next one.
We really hope that the participation will increase.
Thank you very much.
And this is the announcement of the fourth webinar, and it is beyond the symptoms, how the CoMPaSS-NMD Atlas is improving patient care. And Riccardo Corris from Fincons will present his work. It is going to be an important webinar, because you will see in practice how the atlas works and what we can find in it. So thank you very much, and hopefully we will see more people on December 15 at 5 p.m. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ainara and Michael, for your presentation. Thank you.